2! You didn't see there though, you know. Good morning, Magic players and card collectors of all kinds. Welcome back to 100. And as I zoom out, what is this? Oh, it's a bundle of cards. It's something we're going to open at the end of this video because I had a really rough week. And then I got my vacation bonus, and it ended up being a lot more than I was originally anticipating. So I have managed to set aside an extra payment for August for the car issue. So I now have June, July, and August all covered, which is amazing. Now I just have to figure out what I'm going to do in September and October. And I had like $35, $40 left over. So I got myself this nice little bundle, and I got some treats for Kaiba, and paid down my one credit card a bit. So yeah, very good all around. Pretty happy about that. And I still have enough money for the week that I'm not going to get paid, of course, because of vacation. Kaiba's chilling over here. You will notice that I am filming in the living room. That is because I'm still filming this technically on Saturday when you saw the update video posted. But I'm actually filming it now because I wanted to film while Kaiba's at home with me. And there's going to be a couple interruptions in this video. I actually also grabbed a store-bought pizza for lunch. And it's in the oven cooking. And I have laundry on the go as well. So, long story short, I have a lot to do. And and probably a lot of like alarms that are going to go off in the near future. And so, yeah. Oh my goodness. Are you coming over to eat your marrowbone now? Do I need to put this on the floor so that you can be part of the video? Would that make you happy? Okay. We move to the floor. There you go, Kaiba. You can be part of the video. Here's your marrowbone. Okay? Yeah? You're planning to sit on my playmat? Why do you think that they're so comfortable? Yes, you find them very comfortable, don't you? You did this to me the other day when I was trying to record on a playmat. I think you're very cute. Yes. Yes, I think you're very cute. But playmats are not supposed to be for puppies. Oh yeah? Kisses? Well, kisses do earn you lots of love. This is true. This is true. Can I do my card video now, though? No? You have to be part of it, too? Okay. Well, you can be part of it, too. So, anywho. Let's get into this before you guys get really bored. I have the Cody Vociferous Codex deck that we've got going so far. I did a quick count of it this morning, and we are currently up to 56 cards. We have, of course, our commander. And then we have 40 lands. So, super quick review. We've got the Maze's End, which is our win con. I'm not sure about how I like the lighting from that angle. Here, that's better. We got the Maze's End, which is our alternate win con. We got the Baldur's Gate, plus our other 10 gates, so that we have 11 gates in total. We need 10 gates to pull this victory card game off, or this alternate win con off, sorry. But that is the goal. We got 4 islands, 4 forests, 3 mountains, 3 plains, 2 swamps, and a few other lands that we tossed in, plus 10 temples. Evolving Wilds, of course, Terramorphic Expanse being those other two, and then the 10 temples that we can scry to try and get our gates. In addition to that, we also have, just gonna angle the camera down because somebody has gone over here now to lay down. We also have, actually that looks weird from the side, doesn't it? That was the issue I had in the update video. I didn't like the way it looked on the camera from the side. So I like this little tripod. I can angle it from whichever direction I want. Anywho, and then we have our other 15, or our 2 sorceries that we added in, plus our other 15 cards that are permanents. That all had something to do with gates, except for this, which is our second alternate win con in the deck. Just in case we can't pull off the gates, we are going to try and flood this with as many tower counters as possible, and then hopefully win in like a couple turns if we can pull it off with the amount of lands that we have built into this deck. So, those are the 56 cards we have so far, and as we discussed last time, I want to keep the number of permanents to a low count, so we have enough space for 11 more permanents in total. Now, the unfortunate part about that is we have a lot of permanents to look at, because these are all creatures that I kind of want to include in the deck. Kind of. Then we have the 3 maybes from last week that are all something to do with guilds that I'm still on the fence about whether I want to include. I'm tempted to include the Angel more than anything else because of what I'm planning to do with this deck potentially. The other 2 I could definitely see leaving out. So there is definitely a potential that this one's going in, which means we'd only have 10 spaces. But it's going to depend on whether we have enough spaces for everything else that I really want to include. And then these 8 cards here are all artifacts or enchantments that we want to possibly include into the deck. And so I'm going to look through those first and go over them and see which ones we're going to put into a maybe pile and which ones we're going to cut right away. And then we'll go from there. So we've got the Explorer Scope, which I think is a really decent card in this deck. We do have a few creatures that definitely want to attack in this deck, particularly the main boss monster of the deck, which I'm just trying to find her super quick, and she's hiding. There she is. At least I hope she's a she. If I'm wrong, I feel bad for misgendering her. Or him. Anyways, this attached to this would be kind of an interesting thing because it would also let me, I could do this first and then put the land there if I wanted to. Or I could do that afterwards. I think I can order the triggers in whichever order I want. So that's kind of nice in regards to that. There's not a whole bunch of other creatures in here so far, though, that want to attack. And the ones that I'm planning to include, some of them will, but not a lot. So this is definitely a maybe. Amulet is safekeeping. Whenever you become the target of a spell or ability and opponent controls, you can counter that spell or ability unless the controller pays 1. I kind of like this, particularly because I need to protect Maze's End. I need to protect the guild gates. With that said, there are a few cards that I'm thinking about including that would definitely make that a little bit more of a open-ended thing. But, yeah, we're going to go from there. So, I will keep that in the maybe for now. The Druidic Satchel, I think I'm going to cut. I thought this originally was kind of an interesting one because you get to pay 2, tap it, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature, you get to make a Sapperling, which is nice. You get to put a creature on the board. If it's a land, you get to automatically put it onto the battlefield under your control, which is solid because it lets me get the gates out not much faster, per se, if they're on top. And if it's non-creature, non-land, then I get to gain 2 life. So I thought this was really efficient for me. But the thing that I'm thinking is ultimately I do have to cut some stuff, and I think it's going to come down to whether it's better to have the Explorer Scope or this. So I'm going to keep both of them there, but one of them definitely might make it, and the other one probably won't. This I'm going to cut, I've decided. Mystic Forge costs too much to put into play in the first place, and I don't like the idea of having to pay the extra life each time I want to exile the top card of my library. I thought this would be an efficient way to get through my deck faster, but ultimately I'm going to leave that one out, I think. Security Bypass, I think, is almost too good not to include, even though I'm really only include it for one very specific reason, and it's because I want to enchant this creature with it. Because if this creature deals combat damage, its trigger goes off. If it doesn't deal combat damage, I don't get to do its trigger. So if I can give this thing unblockable, which this would be the only creature I'd attack with each turn, that would be insane. Plus, when it deals the combat damage, I also get to connive with it, so it's going to keep growing. So I think that's almost a have to include for 9 Fingers Keen. And that card I'm going to leave out here at the top of the pile up here because I am including it for sure, but I want you to see why I'm constantly referring to it. So this one is going to go in, I think. I'm going to turn the Mystic Forge down. I'm going to put this one as an in. So this is the in pile, the maybe pile, and this is the one where I'm pretty sure I'm going to include something from it. I just haven't decided which. There's going to be a bunch of those smaller piles over here, probably. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has flying. It was going to go for Keen, but I think I'm going to turn it down. Although it's really cheap to put it into play, I do like that. Flying Menace, again, it sounds really good, but the likelihood that I'm going to pull... I'm going to put it in the maybe pile for now. Dark Tutelage I like in this deck a little bit. While it is going to cost me a shite load of life if I pull something that does actually have mana value... Oh, somebody's at my door. Sorry about that. My dad got a package from somewhere. I don't know. It's one of those small boxes, so I'm assuming it's probably something to do with his medicine and stuff that he gets through the mail. But anyways, I think I was describing Dark Tutelage. So I think that it's kind of a gamble to put this in. While I do really like this card for what it's going to do for the deck because it's letting me add an extra card to my hand every turn, I don't know if I want to gamble that much life. I'm going to keep it in the maybe pile. For now, Security Bypass is the only one that's going in for sure, so that means we are down to, at the bare minimum, 10. I'm going to put this one in the maybe pile. I'm going to turn these two down right away because I know I'm not going to include those two. And we know we have at least one of these two that's probably going to make the cut. And now we're going to look at some creatures. There are a ton of creatures. And what I want to do is I'm just going to go based on instinct. I'm going to move Cody over here. I'm going to move the Security Bypass over to here. So this is going to be definite, this is going to be maybe, and this is going to be no. And what I want to do is I'm just going to go as quickly as I can through each creature, cover what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and why I'm going to include it or not include it into the maybe pile, or the definite pile, or the not pile. So here we go. Top off the pile, and I'm going to do them based off the top so that you guys can't see and I don't see ahead of time what's coming next. Glow Spore Shaman. I thought this was an interesting one to include because when it enters battlefield, you get to put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard, and you can put a land card from your graveyard on top of your library. I was thinking if I lose Maze's End to a destruction effect or something, this is a decent way to get it back. I don't like the 3/1 effect. I might just settle with getting a few extra instants in there that let me return a permanent rather than just an anything. But we'll leave it in the maybe pile for now. But I have a feeling that one's probably getting cut. Next up. Student of Ujutai. 3 and a white. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you gain 2 life. The original reason I was thinking about including this is because there's going to be a ton of sorceries and instants in this deck. At least like 30. I think there's closer to 35, if I remember correctly, if I counted everything out right. So that's a lot of life gain that I can get out of it. But it is 4 to put into play, which means it's more expensive than Cody. So I would have to put it in after Cody by removing Cody, or I'd have to wait to put Cody in until after I got this on board. Either way, I'm not 100% sure if I like that. The 2/4 is the nice part, and that's the main reason why it's going to hit the maybe pile for now. You're going to see eventually that the maybe pile is going to get pretty big, but we will cut eventually. Whenever this thing attacks, another target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains indestructible until end of turn. I was usually... oh my goodness, I'm so tongue-tied. After the package got here, my pizza also finished, so I ate a slice of pizza, and now I feel like my mouth is full of pizza still, even though I finished swallowing. I promised somebody that I would not open or touch cards anymore while I'm eating, so I washed my hands and then came back to finish videoing this because I don't know when my dad's coming home, but I need to get this done before he does. If he sees me in the living room filming, he's going to be annoyed. Anyways, I originally was including this to help this out, but I think I'm going to cut this because it costs 2 and a white, which means it's the same as Cody for the expense. And I have to swing with this in order to make its ability trigger, which, I mean, somebody's just going to kill this because it's easy enough to kill, and then I lose that ability. So I'm going to turn that one down. Next up, Elvish Rejuvenator. 2 and a green. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. 2 and a green is an expensive trigger, but it does let me get the landfall trigger. Which, as you're going to see, there are some creatures in here that do like the landfall stuff that's going to be going on in this deck. It is a way to get me to get a gate onto the battlefield. The only trouble with it is it's a one-time trigger. So while it is the same as, you know, some of my other gates stuff going on in the deck, I'm tempted to say no to it because it's 1/1 as well. I'm going to turn that one down. I may regret that later, but I think that that's a better option. Satyr Wayfinder. 1 and a green for a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You can put a land from among them into your hand, put the rest into your graveyard. That is definitely going down. In fact, I'm going to put this one into the maybe pile because I forgot that this one was in the pile. And that one's definitely going down because I do not want to send any of my lands to the graveyard necessarily. If I end up pulling like 4 gates, that means there's 3 gates in the graveyard that I have to try and figure out a way to get back. That's like going to be annoying. I always have a hard time saying this one. Yavi Maya Elder. A 2/1 for 1 and 2 green. When it dies, you can search your library for up to 2 basic lands, reveal them, put into your hand, and shuffle. And you can pay 2 to sacrifice it to draw a card. All around, this card is pretty solid. You're going to be obviously trying to sacrifice it to do the draw, but I mean, if it dies, it still gets the lands, which is what I want anyways. The issue with this one that I don't like is that if my hand is already full, that means I have to discard something. While it is getting me stuff out of my deck faster so I can get to those gates faster, I think I'm going to turn it down. I would rather have the Rejuvenator over that, to be honest. Alright, continuing on. Primal Druid. 1 and a green. When it dies, you can search your library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. That one's kind of nice compared to the other one because it gets it onto the field right away. It is a 0/3, which is pretty solid. I am going to need a few more creatures in this deck, likely. I'm going to put that as a maybe. I like this one because it's an instant as well as a creature. And what's fun about this is the instant keeps going back into my deck. So, if I play the instant for 3 in a blue, I get to draw 3 cards and discard a card. And then it goes back into my deck for me to draw it again and do the same thing over again later on. Or if I'm really desperate and need a creature, I have a 6/7 for 4 and 2 blue with flying, which is pretty insane. And it lets me return up to 2 target non-land permanents to their owner's hands when it enters. So, Kaiba's over here having a little siesta. Yes, you go, puppy. I do like that a lot, but I think I'm going to maybe it for now. I haven't pulled anything yet that I'm like absolutely saying yes to so far out of this pile, which is interesting. Tap up to 1 target creature and draw a card. This is again an omen, so it goes back into my deck repeatedly, but this time I'm going to say no to it. I think it's too much for the dragon when you're only getting flying in Ward 2. And while the omen is a lot cheaper, I'm not really seeing a point in it compared to the other ones, so... Seagate Oracle. I originally thought that this was actually something to do with gates, but it has nothing to do with gates at all. However, when it enters the battlefield, you get to look at the top 2 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand and the other on the bottom of your library. So in theory, it's a way to get through 2 cards to get to gates faster as long as I'm not shuffling my deck. It's like scrying, essentially. The downside is the expense. The 2 and a blue for a 1/3. I like it's a good value for the card. It's just, again, comparing it to Cody. Am I going to get this in before Cody? If not, it's not really worth it. At least not for what it's doing. And I don't have ways to, like, bounce things in this deck, and I have no intentions of putting that in. So I think I'm going to turn that one down. We'll put it as a maybe for now, just because it says gate in its name. But I'm pretty sure it's going to get turned down later. This one I originally liked because it's going to reduce the cost of all my instants and sorceries by 1, but again, it's so expensive to put it on board. It does also let me draw a card, though, every time I cast an instant or sorcery card, which is pretty good value, too. We'll keep it in the maybe pile. I'm talking myself into more cards than I'm talking myself out of. This one I thought was kind of fun because it lets me untap the gates, much like the one creature in here that already lets me do that. So if I put in multiple gates in a turn and I have both on board, then in theory I can untap 2 gates in a turn. But ultimately, I think I'm going to turn this one down. I want to save it for other decks where I think that that's going to be more valuable, and I know a lot of blue decks really like that kind of thing, so I think I'm going to save it for that. Sigiled Starfish, I have this in my mono blue deck, and I really like it in there because I get to tap Scry 1 and do the mono blue thing that I want to do with that deck as well. Even still though, a 0/3 is a nice little card on board. It only costs 1 on blue. I think I'm putting this as a first include. It's going to help me get through my deck a little quicker. This one is almost definitely going to get excluded, but let's just double check. 3/5 with flying for 3 and 2 blue. Discard a card and this thing becomes hexproof until end of turn, but you have to tap it. Whenever it attacks, you scry 3. Yeah, I'm going to be attacking with it every turn probably, but no, I don't think it's worth putting in the deck. It's too costly. Nimbus Naiad? Naiad? I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce that, to be honest. I've not seen a word like that before. Has Bestow 4 in a blue, which was the main reason to include it, because I wanted to give my 9-finger Keen flying and +2/+2. But I'm not going to do it for that, if I wasn't going to include the one that only cost a single blue. Which I'm pretty sure we already... Nope, we put that into the maybe pile, didn't we? We did put it in the maybe pile. Okay. But I mean, I'm definitely not going to include that. Wingcrafter. 1 blue for a 1/1 has Soulbound. As long as it's paired with another creature, both creatures have flying. Now, this one feels like a good one to include. As long as I can keep this on board, this creature would have flying if that's the one I'm going to target, which I'm hoping to have that one out when this comes out. No, you know what? I'm going to say no. It's too easy to get hit, and I don't have anything to protect it with, really. I'm going to have a bunch of counter spells in here, but I want to use those to protect my lands, for the most part, not my creatures. This felt like a decent one to include at the time because it's giving me that trigger of target creature can't be blocked. It is a little expensive to put on board, and it's a little expensive to trigger the ability, though. And if I had another Rogue's Passage, I'd probably include that instead of, like, the extra mountain that I've included, or maybe one of the planes. But I think that's still too expensive. I'm going to turn it down. Into red stuff now. I have 2 creatures in red that both do the same thing, and I'm kind of tempted to include both of them, because when I land into this battlefield under my control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. I really like that ability. I'm definitely going to include one of the 2. So there's that one, and then there's this one. This one's a little more expensive, but it also has a much larger butt, so it's going to handle better damage spells that get slung at it. With a butt of 2, there's a good chance this one... You know what? I'm going to take that one out. I'm going to conclude this one. I've talked myself into it. Yes, it costs a lot, which means there's a good chance that it's not going to get in before Cody. So this is one of those times where if I get this and I want to put it into play, I'm going to have to kill Cody if it's already on board. But the fact that it deals 1 damage to every opponent every time a land comes in, and I'm going to be dropping at least 1 land, if not 2 per turn, is pretty good. Next up. Humble Defector almost feels like it should be an auto-include in this deck. 1 and a red for a 2/1. It lets me draw 2 cards, then I give it to an opponent. Hopefully I can talk that opponent to giving it back to me each time. But you never know. That's the downside of it, and that's why I'm putting in the maybe for now, instead of the auto-include, but I really do like that card, potentially, for this deck. Chamber Sentry is one that I thought would be kind of fun to put in this deck. It costs X, so when it comes into play, you get a +1/+1 counter on it for each color of mana that was spent on it. So this is a 5-color deck, so it could be a 5/5 minimum. And then X to remove a number. Pay X, tap, remove X +1/+1 counters from this thing to deal X damage to any target. And then Wooburg to return this thing from your graveyard to your hand, so it's just a fun one that I can keep getting back and putting it back on the board. It'll always be a 5/5. That's the only downside. I can't like obviously make more mana colors because there's only 5 colors. But and I'm probably not going to use the second. You know what? I'm not going to use the second ability though, so probably not worth including that one. Suspicious Bookcase, I think, is the better option than the one that was the blue one that was going to give unblockable. Costs 2 less to do the same ability, and it costs only 2 to put it on board. So I think that's an auto include. I'm going to put that there to pair with this. Next up, Skittering Surveyor. When it enters battlefield, you can search your library for a basic land, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. I'm going to say no to that. It costs too much. 4/1/2. Now we're getting into some of the good stuff. This one I really want to include in this deck because I've talked with several people, and while I've gotten mixed opinions on this, the overall general consensus is what I want to do with this will work. So, whenever this creature, which is Omo, Queen of Vesuva, for 2 and a green or blue, it's a 1/5. Whenever she enters or attacks, you get to put an everything counter on up to 1 target land and up to 1 target creature. I don't really care about doing it on the creatures, but I do care about doing it on the lands, because each land with an everything counter on it is every land type in addition to its other types. So, my understanding is, if I have this enter, and I target this forest, and I put an everything counter on it, as long as Omo is on board, this forest counts as a gate. Which means I can get to the 10 gates much faster by using her ability. So she's definitely going in. Which means we are currently up to 5 permanents that are auto-includes, leaving us 6 optional ones. We got 3 creatures left, and I accidentally revealed them all. Zavala feels like a really solid one to include because everybody's going to reveal the top card of their library. Everybody's getting a card draw, so nobody's going to want to necessarily get rid of this. I get life and green mana for each non-land card revealed this way. But my main goal is to actually get all my lands, of course. So I think that's a good one to at least put in the maybe pile for sure, for consideration. Zimone Quandrix Prodigy, I think almost has to go in. Pay 1 tap, you can put a land from your hand onto the battlefield, so I mean, as long as I have 1 available, I can do an extra land drop. Or I can pay 4 and tap her to draw a card, and then if I have 8 or more lands, I get to draw 2 cards, which chances are by turn like 5 or 6, if I have her out early enough, I'm going to have that amount of lands to start doing card draw instead if I want. It's too versatile not to include, so there's 6. And then I was originally thinking about putting this in because I know I was saying that I wanted to build a landfall deck using this, but I recently realized, oops, there goes my video. I recently realized that I actually have a solid blue, black, green landfall deck that just needs some tweaking to make it better from Dragons of Tarkir that I completely forgot I had because I haven't played it in over a year. So I'm going to put this into that deck probably. And while this is really solid for my gates because all my gates would come in untapped, and when I tap him, all my other things would be, all my opponent's stuff would come in tapped. The downside is I don't really have things in here that are going to let me tap him. And I don't really plan to include things in here that are going to let me tap him. So, yeah, I'm saving him for the next deck. So we've got 6 auto-includes. A 7th up here, but we have to decide about, which I think I'm leaning towards this one. Mainly because, even though it costs a little more to put it on board, I like the fact that I get a token, or get the land drop, or get life gain. Whereas this is only going to let me get a land drop if the land is already on top of my deck. So I'm going to turn that down, I'm going to put this on. Alright, that leaves me with 4 spaces. And 13 cards. Since there are 3 cards that are not a creature, I'm going to say maybe one of those should be an include, and then the other 3 should be creatures, which is going to be really tough to do, because there's a lot of decent creatures in there. So, we'll start with these ones. I want to cut out of these 3. This is only going in because it would target 9 Fingers Keen, and I don't think that I'm going to get that off as much as I might use some instants and sorceries just to give her better abilities. Instead, I like the extra ward that this gives me, but it would kill all my it would make all my saprolings suck. So I'm going to take that out. Which means that this one's probably the best one to include, but I'm not sure if I want to include that or another creature. So I'm going to leave that here as a maybe still. Because there are so many good creatures in this pile that I'm just not sure what I'm going to include. We have 10 creatures, and we have to at least cut 7, potentially 8. Or no, we have to cut at least 6, potentially 7. Sorry. So, I'm going to say right off the bat that the Angel I don't think is going to be worth it. Even though the reason why I thought that I might still include it is because if Omo is out and it's given enough counters to different things, I could have potentially like 14 or 15 gates out. I just don't have my win con yet and gain like 30 life off this. But I think it's just too expensive and I don't really like the ability as much as I originally thought I would. I'm turning it down. Plus I've got that one card in here that lets me gain 7 life the instant I put it on. For 2 mana cheaper, I think? Was that 1 or 2 mana cheaper? 2 mana cheaper. 2 mana cheaper, and I get instantly 7 life, as long as I have 2 Aurora Gates, which is going to be much more plausible. So I think that's a better card choice. I think Zavala or Humble Defector should be one of the two. I think I'm going to turn this down, even though there's going to be a ton... No, you know what? I'm going to put that to the back. I'm going to turn this down for sure. I think I'm turning this down for sure because it's too much of an expense. I have to get it to die in order to do the trigger, so I'm going to say no to that. Maybe it's only if I'm casting stuff, but I do have a ton of non-creature stuff in here. I'm going to say no to the Rejuvenator. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to say no to a Rejuvenator. I'm tempted to include these 3. Okay. We're going to go... We're going to go I'm going to go this one for sure. This one's for sure going in. I like the idea of being able to get a land back. Maybe I include both of these and don't include 2 of these. Let's do it this way. 2 of these are going in, and then I've already included 1. That makes 2, 4, 6, 8. I need 11. 2 of those are going in, 1 of these is going in. Okay, so I'm either going for the life gain, or I'm going for the cheaper spells. And the card draw... It only costs 1 more for that one. It's a bigger body. I am so torn. I'm going to leave that as a maybe for later. When we do the instants and sorceries pile, we'll see how much the instants and sorceries cost. If they end up having a lot of high cost ones, this one's probably going in. If not, that one's going in. From here, I say definitely Zavala, because I think that people will like Zavala being in there. And I think the Humble Defector might be the better option. It's just a matter of I'm not 100% sure I'm going to get it back, and I don't like that necessarily because I don't want it to just stay on other people's boards, and I never get to use this ability, whereas Dark Tutelage will always be mine. But Dark Tutelage has the potential to cost me a shitload of life. For example, if I Dark Tutelage this, and this is in my deck, I lose 5 life instantly. That's a lot of life to lose for pulling 1 extra card. So I think Humble Defector might be the better option, even though I'm really not keen on other... I'm not keen on other people stealing my stuff. I'm going to leave these 2 as maybes for now. So there are 2 sets of maybes to look at later, because I just can't decide right now. These ones are all going in, which means our total is now up to 63, with 2 maybe optionals, and then we have a further 35 instants and sorceries that we are going to sort out later on. And, as promised, now we will do the bundle. Super quick, and then I want to go eat more of that pizza before it gets super cold. Kaiba went back over to the front door. He doesn't seem to want his pizza today. I don't know why. You okay, baby? Aw. Poor baby. I think he misses my dad. Alright, in this bundle we have... we got a pack of cards! We got a pack of cards! We hit the legendary, guys! There is a promise that potentially you might get a pack of cards in these, and I didn't think you would actually see that, but it really came true. Holy shit. I'm going to reveal the pack at the end. I don't know what it is. You guys might know from the back of it, but I can't tell. It might be like a really big dud, but hopefully it's something cool. We got what looks like a 10-card pile. We got what feels like a 6-card one, and then what feels like maybe a 2-card one. So this is a really good bundle. Holy crap. Alright, let's kick it off. The 10 card. We got Freelance Muscle, 4 and a green. When it attacks or blocks, you get +X/+X until end of turn. Or it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power and or toughness among other creatures you control. Solid. It's a Rhino too, which is kind of cool. Leap of Faith. I want to eventually build like a Rhinos and Warthog and Elephant kind of deck. Leap of Faith. Target creature gains flying until end of turn. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to that creature. That's a good example of a card that I might include for Keen. Sliver Construct. 2/2 for 3. And it's a Sliver artifact creature. Okay. Corpse Hauler. 2 and a black to sacrifice it and return another creature from your graveyard to your hand, which is nice. 1 and a black for a 2/1. I like that. That's a good include. Probably my favorite one so far of the pack. Raise the Ground. Can't be countered. Destroy an artifact. If its mana value was 1 or less, you get to draw a card. Okay. Oops, upside down card. Is it Cluestone? Gets you a blue or a red, and blue and red, tap, sacrifice it, and draw a card. Okay. Back to the upside down again. Or right side up. Mighty Leap. Target creature gets +2/+2 and flying until end of turn. I like the Leap of Faith a little bit better. I might not get the extra +2/+2, but I don't take any damage to my creature, which is nicer. Oni Cult Anvil. Still a good card, though. Black and red. Whenever one or more artifacts you control leave the battlefield during your turn, create a 1/1 colorless construct creature artifact token. This ability triggers only once each turn. Tap this, sacrifice an artifact, and this thing deals 1 damage to each opponent. You gain 1 life. Ooh. That's kind of neat. I like that a lot. That's a good one. Sibzik Host. When it enters the battlefield, each player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Ouch! 4 and a black gets you a 2/6 that mills everybody for 3? Damn. And Unnatural Aggression. Devoid. Target creature you control fights target creature an opponent controls. If that creature an opponent control would die, it gets exiled. Okay. I think the Anvil is the best card, but yeah, it was a good little pack there for sure. Pretty happy with those. Never pulled that Anvil before, though, so definitely solid. I think we might even open that on Super Deck Sunday, to be honest, because this video is getting pretty long already, and I need to save space on my phone. Got a lands pack. Nice. Always good to get a lands pack. Maybe we get a cool land. But even if we get 6 basics, we definitely scored. Swamp. Island. 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 Plains with some text. Seeking to learn why the ancestors have fallen silent, you've made your way to the ancient cairns. Ooh, cool. And a full art mountain. Pretty. Nice. And our 2-pack. Oh, nope, it's a 4-card pack. Felt like a 2-card pack. That's okay, though. Can't complain when we pulled the legendary bundle today. Alright, we got Weasel Redcap. Pay 1 and a red, and it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Is a Goblin Knight. For 1 red, it's a 1/1. Alright. I'm not going to shake that one, though. Ooh, Gluttonous Zombie. I don't have this zombie. A 3/3 for 4 and a black that has Fear. Cool. Accidental Reveal, because that's a double-sided card. Lightning Wolf, 3 and a red for 4/3. Gets first strike until end turn. I have a copy of this. It's a decent enough card, but I don't end up using it because I had so much other stuff in my werewolf deck that I had to cut it. And The cool card that is double-sided is... I'm just trying to figure out which side I should show first. Okay, it's this way. So it starts out like this. Tribute to Horobi. 1 and a black. Each opponent gets a 1/1 black rat rogue creature token. Interesting. For the first 2. And then for 3, exile this thing, return to the battlefield transformed under your control, and it becomes a flying haste 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, gain control of all rat tokens. Ooh. When it attacks you, you may sacrifice another creature if you do draw a card. Cool. This is going in my rats deck for sure. Nice. And the pack that we got, which I will save for Super Deck Sunday because this video has gone way too long. I apologize, guys, in advance. But the pack that we're going to open on Super Deck Sunday after the deck is... Ooh. Outlaws at Thunder Junction. Cool. I am good with that, actually. I know a lot of people did not like this set, but I've kind of enjoyed this set. I thought it was kind of funny. I know the lore isn't the best. Definitely the end of the story really sucks with the whole loot and how that went. But the cards in this set were pretty decent. And if I pull the one card that everybody is always chasing, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, that'd be insane. Anywho, that's all we're going to do for now for 100. It's already been 40 bloody minutes, and I need to go eat the rest of that pizza before it gets cold. So... you guys will see this on Tuesday, so much love to you all from Kaiba the Pug over there. And myself to you. We hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. And thank you for tuning in. Love you all. Bye!